Talking is over. It's time for the Alamo Bowl between BYU and Colorado here in San Antonio. And kickoff's going to be Saturday night, 5:30 p.m. Mountain, 6:30 p.m. Central. And earlier today, we heard from Coach Prime and Kalani Sitake in a joint press conference, and both were complimentary of each other's teams. And, this is going to be a bowl game that I think is going to be a very physical game. It's going to rewrite maybe narratives of bowl games because typically you look at bowl games and think players are opting out, they're not going to be interested. But this week throughout Alamo Bowl prep, these teams have remained consistent that they are very committed and energized to win this football game, and now it's a matter of which team's going to come out on top. And Jake Retzlaff noted that it could be a little bit of the people's Big 12 champion. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek. He got asked a question if they viewed it as a Big 12 championship game, but this is a big one. And for Colorado, it's a good chance to win 10 games, but for BYU, it's a chance to cap off a season and get to an 11th win. Hasn't happened since 2020. And it's not very common that happens. And BYU is going to have to get off to a fast start. And, BYU teams in the past, they typically always perform well when they get off to a fast start. And this one in particular seems to thrive on that aspect. If they score first, more likely than not, BYU is going to have a great chance to be in position to spring the upset and win this football game. But all the attention right now, definitely on the Colorado Buffaloes. You can sense that. And, BYU has... they've got players too, in the words of Kalani Sitake at the pep rally last night in the joint press conference. And this team's got a little bit of a quiet resolve to try to get this victory in San Antonio here at the Alamo Dome. But I think that, Jake Retzlaff's got to have a big game for BYU. I think he's got to be error-free. That's going to be vital, I think, for BYU's chances to come away with a victory. If he can avoid the turnovers, and he noted that he's fully healthy now. In the month of November, he was dealing with some injuries to the point where Aaron Roderick told me yesterday that they probably should have maybe played someone else potentially against Kansas. So Jake's healthy, and they've capitalized on taking advantage of these bowl practices, and they feel ready to go. L.J. Martin's going to be a big piece, I think, for BYU on the offensive side. He has to be. I think L.J. Martin, this could be a real tone setter for him going into 2025 and beyond, because he's only a sophomore, a West Texas kid playing back in his home state, obviously down here in San Antonio. So he's going to be one to keep an eye on. And then, of course, for Colorado, the star power with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. And I think it's been great that those guys are playing in this game, and they've remained committed. There's a huge insurance policy that's on the line for those guys to kind of give that peace of mind in this game. But to have a Heisman Trophy winner and have a heralded quarterback who's going to be one of the first guys off the board in the NFL draft, it makes for a big stage. And I think this is one of the biggest platform games BYU has been a part of in the postseason. Gosh, I would say maybe dating back to the Cotton Bowl in the mid-'90s, back in 1996 season. So a huge game for BYU and a huge game for Colorado. But I just think this one could be a real springboard for BYU into next year. Been at practice yesterday, and you see some of those young players competing in practice for BYU, and a lot of those guys are going to be taking on the spotlight role, but you got a lot of returning talent too. Jack Kelly's got a decision coming up at linebacker if he comes back. Isaiah Glasker, one of the top linebackers in the Big 12. Despite losing some key guys at the top end of the roster, this group has a lot returning, and they could be really good next season. And I think if you win this one, it validates maybe where BYU is on the hierarchy of the Big 12 conference, because I think this BYU team's been slept on quite a bit. They got a chance to really punctuate a season that they were one of the best in the Big 12, and they could really springboard themselves into a big 2025 season, or at least some preseason expectations next year. Loaded game day coverage coming up for you on KSL Sports. KSL News Radio, KSL TV. On KSL News Radio, we'll get the extended pregame coverage beginning at noon. I'll have interviews with Tom Holmoe, Brian Santiago, BYU quarterback Jake Retzlaff, offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick, and DC J. Hill. Loaded programming coming up on KSL News Radio, and then KSLSports.com will have you covered. So a lot of coverage coming to you from the Alamo City as BYU gets ready to take on the Colorado Buffaloes here in the 2024 Alamo Bowl. We'll talk to you next time here on KSLSports.com.